loads of as well. And the venue, what venue for the venue for the event? And they're like, the event's on the 25th of June. So like, great, now I'm in London, like,
I don't know why it's pointing to us.
thankfully, at the King's Cross, like, which where I did the impact, it's like, no, it's really well.
This
I've around the
perfect.
corner, I know bar staff, so like there's a few good spots in there for working with, you know, Richard Quiet and Carol and internet and stuff like that. So it was
Okay.
yeah, today because I can't break myself today.
Well, at least you remember this, you know.
This is
Yeah, it could have been worse, especially it's basically like a hackathon for non-technical people which are using it. So it would be pretty
so.
in terms of your,
I think there's we are.
getting VC funding,
Normal people.
where are you funding?
So only 6:30 is what we to come here.
I'm here for 6 hours to myself.
That's the official starting.
Oh, well, I've been
Right.
building for
Right.
like
Okay. So this we warm up.
years, so I've got like essentially microsats products which I've built just bring in enough income to live off.
So I switch off.
Correct.
Recording. Right.
You missed the best part.
Yeah. You're not going to do the crazy LinkedIn today.
We shook hands, right? We shook hands.
Anyway, I'll show you what I'm building back to reality.
Right. So Woozy Group. We'll record it obviously. I guess Ben's the only other scene of the
Yeah, so thanks for these two guys for, you know, inspiring us to make a one-to-one meeting, because usually we've got every second Wednesday an online meeting. And very rarely we do the live, you know, meeting in person. And if, you know, they are the ambassadors from Seattle, Agentics Foundation, and we are the us for the London representative of
Go. Oh, that's finished. Fine. Right.
We all did. It's not you. It's us.
I looked through the alumni room and was like, no, it can't be that one.
And we have the London chapter of the Global Foundation of Agentics. I don't know how much you know about the Agentics Foundation.
A little bit. I got a friend, John Weston, who's going to do some.
But
It wasn't quite ready yet. So.
yeah,
so basically
you know already, Rufus. Yeah, the story backstory.
yeah. So yeah, we generally are adopting more of a pull approach than a push approach. So we are in the London, UK, Channel Islands area, probably around 200 plus people. Generally are active on our WhatsApp groups. We, as Ben said, do some activities fortnightly. Just the background. But I guess most of us are anyways familiarized, so to carry on with the stuff.
Yeah, it's just a fireside chat, usually every second Wednesday, and it's very free. Some of the chapters globally are very strict, and they have presentation and, you know, slide decks, and some people enjoy the London one because we just re-roaming topics like what you did before. And we've got some presentations today. Chris, I think, Adam, you have something?
I can just share some thoughts and ideas that we are facing while supporting enterprises through the the change of going towards agentic and what is the reality that we see in physical process. Happy to share more and some of the ideas that we are having and some of the realities that some people don't see, that we need to acknowledge how much of a bubble we are in, and how much educational change management, mindsetting work we need to do, and we need to bring the normies with us somehow. And not by, but I feel that when you look at general population, there is more and more negative communication against technology. There is more resentment against it because it is taking away jobs. In order to be successful in this space, you need to fall in love with change. And what does the average corporate employee hate the most? Change. And that creates pressure and friction in the system that slows change down. In a space where it is an ever changing motion with higher and higher velocity that people are just not prepared for. And I used to run marathons, and my trainer used to say, and that became my mantra, is it's not the distance, it's speed that kills. And the speed is the one that kills. And the speed is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and there is no option to slow down. The only option is to speed up. And people don't like that.
It's like the Formula One analogy of cars. They say that the speed limit of cars is not set by the engine.
It's set by the human perception of reality and how
by brakes.
And the ability to forecast the moment that you need to brake up and foresee the risk that your eyes cannot even perceive yet. But within the blink of an eye, that one car goes in between 100 to 160 meters.
But you want to push that brake and it works instantly.
And it's weird that everybody is saying that we need to slow down, we need to slow down, we need to slow down, but action is always pedal to the metal for some reason. Because something else, China, competitors, etc.
Greetings for Rob, one of our members.
Hey Rob. This is sort of like Emily Agentics.
We've got very advanced camera system here. So Vincent is in France. Rob is Bristol. Where are you?
Is Vincent on the line? OpenClawCity, Vincent.
We can't hear you yet.
What? Sorry.
Where are you from? Exactly. I thought I call that.
I mean, I've lived loads of places. I'm currently in Cambridge. But yeah, Bristol was one of the places I have lived. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah. It's a little bit complicated to get into the building. Rufus cracked the secret entrance over there, but I'm worried this is bringing someone up. So slowly we are starting.
Vincent, could you ask one bit? Someone else, like 5 minutes.
Okay.
I don't have his number, so could you just
Yeah,
ask?
he grabbed my phone now.
I can
Could you message Sarah or
I can
I don't
message the
know?
group chat.
Will he see your phone if Adam is messaging?
He's coming back in a minute.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Are you from Space Force?
No, I was watching.
Aren't we all from space?
The back of the floor for
It's just doing manufacturing space.
That's right, it's really cool. From Wales.
Wales.
Yeah, I met your. Are you?
Yeah,
you
Josh.
work with?
No, I was just advising. It was like a government response.
Yeah, they're set on SpaceX.
They've got some agreements. Such they're doing really good stuff.
Yeah, I met them at event. Yeah, it's,
Innovate UK. Or
no, so it's the company that they're doing experiments, isn't it? It's space.
They're manufacturing in space, like a reactor. Send up on a rocket basically, and you've got the extreme heat and colder space. You've got vacuum, you can create very pure materials that you can create on Earth.
Yeah.
But then the problem is going to bring it back.
Yeah.
So you've got this like heat shield and trying to bring the materials back and
Right.
all that stuff.
So what are you advising on?
Electronics, telecommunications, all different topics and stuff.
Right.
Various like innovation things. So yeah, they're basically creating diamonds in space, which is it's a very pure material.
Diamonds, did you say?
Diamonds, yeah. So I was always saying,
Making sure
from
that
here,
that's
some
right.
fucking stuff. Yeah. This is the best pump, it's the best heat sink. It's the number one reason of failure of electronics is heat failure. So if you have a good heat sink there, you solve that big problem. It's really difficult to do.
Is there any effort to working idea at like industrial scale of taking that
Then how many of them
and
it should call?
anticipating it, circling
that's
that
fine, I know.
energy and
If we
creating
can-
self-reliable systems and self-powering systems from all the heat that is being emerged?
Well, I don't know, actually, yeah, that's a good question. Whether someone's doing that.
Any VCs on the line? You were looking for something like that.
Yeah, so we can slowly kick off the presentations.
Yeah.
If Chris, you want to start.
Don't let me go. I talk
please.
and talk and talk. Let someone else go first. I feel like it's
Find out.
And Rocky, you have millions things to show.
I don't really have anything that's very impressive. To be honest. I'm like a dumb user of AI.
It's more
Aren't you?
I'm like a Stone Age guy, and I just see a rock and I have my fight to see.
or just one of the websites or the
I can present a few things, yeah, if you want.
for years.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, there's also one guy who's coming in like 2 minutes or so. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
I was asking him. He messed up the location.
Because he talked about this yesterday.
Sorry.
I only just saw the message yesterday.
Yeah.
Holiday next week.
So
Seen it
you need one more chair, right? I'll get the chair.
Let's just move a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did bring my TGI mic, probably going to fuse one.
If you want, you can present something, Mark. If
I don't have anything
Yeah.
to present right now.
That's cool.
or Rocky the
I can present, yeah, if you want.
what was that last time we talked about it?
I'm just here to really learn about best practice because I'm just using AI and I just throw everything at it in different ways.
We will have, probably Rob, you may have something interesting to show the group as well.
Yeah.
It's not yet discussed, Rob. Will you be up to showcase some of the stuff you've been creating?
I mean, can do. I'm not prepared for that, but
Yeah, so corporate finance guy here. Rob. But I think, Mark, maybe we do thematic wise, like stuff that unless you have covered from the recruitment side, which you wanted to do. Chris, would love to see what Nucleus where it is at the moment. Mark, what's happening in cybersecurity world?
Yeah.
Maybe we time box like
Mythos.
Yes, we just go around the house. Maybe time box for like say 7 minutes or so. We round around, and then Vince or anyone else has anything to show, and then we'll open up for discussion. If you time progress, I'm sure of something I've been working on, but it's a simple app, but I'll show it this time. But you know where your colleague is?
I don't know.
It's okay. We'll kick off. If needed, I'll pop in and out, so bear with me. So, who would like to go first? Go for it.
I'm happy to do so. So,
You don't need to show.
no, I'm not joining this call. Sorry, but it's
I'm sharing you.
share with you. So one of the in my whole career, where the space that I found myself is this empty space between techies and non-techies, normies. Even my GitHub says that I'm too techie for the normies and too normie for the techies. But it is a very good point to be because you're the translation machine to some extent and the connecting glue. And what I found by being forced to look more out and out from our AI bubble is that the normies are not where we are. And the gap is bigger than it is. And there is this saying I heard this saying from Sam Altman many, many years ago when he was asked about the enablement piece. And he was saying, raise the floor and don't care about the ceiling. But if we don't care about the ceiling, the socioeconomic scissor is opening up like crazy, and that gap will crush the societies and economies, and we need to care about that. Here is some realities that we've seen so far. It's really, really easy to do AI enablement and change and cloud code and all that if you're a 2 to 3%, 10% company. You have an enormous competitive advantage. I do believe the 1% unicorn company can be a reality. The only reason that it won't be is that building alone is painfully lonely. And us humans are inherently social creatures. So the possibilities there, but humans are not like that. And in order to get there, you need to change everything. And if you go into any office and ask any employee what do you hate in your job, they will say change. And we need to fall in love with change, and we need to get the normies to fall in love with change somehow. Meanwhile, the reality is that if you are, for example, an enterprise in Germany introducing a new tool, is a 1-year process. When you work at an enterprise that has more than 10,000 people, the AI adoption, quote unquote, is unmeasured. They don't even have any metrics to measure that. And the percentage of people who open up their chat assistant is usually less than 10%.
Mostly that's Copilot.
And mostly that's Copilot. And there is this thing that Clara has this really good saying for it, which is the bottom courage. I think so. Not a lot of people have the bottom courage to even push the drop down of changing a model. And they use the cheapest model available that is optimized for cost by the provider, and their experience is subpar. And that also kind of like builds up walls around them. And one of the things that we need to show, and I think it's our responsibility, is try to show the gains of how can you be.
Message for you.
Very interesting, as I have been networking a lot lately and found it hard to bridge the knowledge gap. Yes. And also, don't forget about the Donner-Kruger effect. Each time we go into corporate workshops, we try to do some investigation of where people at, and we like to ask. So self-rating your knowledge and understanding of AI is flawed because people don't know how to self-rate, and they don't like to be self-critical, even self-assess. And it's interesting to see that the folks who rate their understanding and knowledge the highest, their feature usage is the lowest. So the person who is most confident in their AI understanding never ranks you on a search, never pushed the results button, never changed the thinking model, never did all these things. But yet they are unfortunately, the most confident is a lot of the loudest. So in enterprises, you need to somehow fight this. And it's really, really easy. What we found is that it helps them to, instead of trying to find time for this, we need to show them where the efficiency and time savings are. People don't care about rack systems, don't care about memory, they don't care about this stuff. They care about how can I get rid of the amount of work that I don't want to do, how can I do it faster, more efficiently, or more cheaper. And it's easy to show them just by doing a basic process mapping and process intelligence. But we did a lot of support or change management. Again, just giving thought to everybody won't solve it. One of the things that we advise to everybody, and what we did with our own corporation, the corporation startup as well, is try to transform all your company knowledge, all your knowledge management, and pluginify it. Every client should be a skill, every process should be a skill, everything should be a plugin. And when you start to show the simplicity of this, people start to go on board and things start to work, but they don't have metrics. So make sure that it doesn't matter what is the metrics, have one. And a lot of times in enterprise, that metrics is dollars. And it's very good. If you want to get into enterprise, you need to tie agentic to dollars. If you're not doing that, a CFO will say no. From the second that you can tie it to dollars, things start to move, but that's where at least I find myself needing to ask myself, is this the position that we want to be? Because I start to feel like the dude on the boat in on this hell, the dude who takes you to the other side. And I'm not sure if that is the persona that we want to be, but unfortunately that activity is unavoidable.
Can you give some examples, your experiences, like CFO experiences in this space? Any kind of real experience you've had in this?
Real experiences. We just finished up. We just finished up an engagement with a mid-market company in the Middle East. 5,000 to 7,000 people, biggest tech IPO in 2024. We did a 1-week workshop with a group of 40 people that we helped them identify to become like change agents and drivers of change. With this amount of 40 people, we were able to identify 12,000 working days in a year. And 12,000 working days, just to give you context of what does that mean? That's actually 1% of the identified opportunity size. We say that we believe that the actual implementation from plan to reality is somewhere 1%, but even with 1%, it's 12,000 working days at the 5,000 person company in 1 year, which makes people very excited at first, makes the CIO very excited because there is this term in human resource, which is your loaded cost, which is your sort of hourly rate, including taxes, including benefits, including the cost of having you in as a button seat in an office, the cost of labor, the cost of electricity. And you just multiply that, and suddenly you're at millions of dollars, pounds, euros, you name it. That gets the CFO really excited. But as the numbers go up, people start to realize that how much of their work was transactional, and the transactional work can be reviewed like this. And if the vast majority of your work is transactional, and that transactional work is not existing anymore, the opportunity for you to be there is also disappearing. And that's where the fear comes in. And that's where the pushbacks start to come. And I don't know yet how to manage that, because while I'm prepared to have the conversation about megawatts to productivity, the economy isn't.
So does that mean your workshops and your enablement focuses more on cost cutting rather than AI for revenue generation?
First, yes, because what we found is, what should I use AI? They get into paralysis and analysis paralysis, and not everybody is a product manager. We found that when we go into AI enablement engagements, AI is a very minuscule part of the problem and the part of our deliverables. There's a lot of change management, organizational design, workforce design, workflow identification, even just first guiding people through of like, so what's your work?
Yeah.
What's the outcome of your work? How does your work that you do today here at your desk, how is it correlating or causating with the company's work? What does the company do, by the way?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people can answer that question on a whim.
The area of application as well. So like, where would you even say AI?
Yeah.
Also demystify that, because the vast majority have this internal and external force towards them that you need to do AI. And AI becomes the goal, and that's the moment everything is broken, because they want AI.
Yeah.
AI is not a goal, AI is just a tool. Nothing is changing, you're still solving business problems. And we need to help them identify the business problems that they're actually working on and can be solved by AI application. And not just can be solved, but in the regulatory environment, it is possible to be solved, because like we work on in the US market and the European market, and there is big contrast around like what is allowed or not allowed to be done. So you need to find that intersection. And we hear even companies say that it was so good that we had to roll it back.
So I guess maybe we take a couple of questions. I'll fetch your colleague for, and then maybe we'll go round. So please carry on.
Any questions?
Would you like to go next? Yeah.
Do you think that the enterprise is not compatible with AI?
Yes.
Agentic?
Yes.
So they need to find something else.
Well, I used to do change management at the company with more than 1 million employees. Change management may even have more than 1,000 employees. It becomes like turning around with the Titanic in a fish pond. Impossible and slow. And when the world moves at light year speed around you, you just get left behind. These behemoths don't think that they can disappear. While if we look back in the past, we see a lot of behemoths. Archaic, laggard behemoths disappear.
Kovacs, IBM.
AOL, Yahoo.
It's a lot of legacy systems. And it's very difficult to change the system, especially if you have, let's say, at an enterprise, sometimes you have 3 different ticketing systems. So, like, what do you do with that even?
It's a very interesting topic anyway.
Also, a lot of in corporations, there's 2 categories of workers: individual contributors and resource managers. Individual contributors are individual contributors for a reason. Sometimes because they don't want to be resource managers. Now we're suddenly asking these individual contributors to be product engineers, product developers, and also managers of resources, while they never delegated a task in their life. So how do you decide which are the tasks that will be delegated to swarms and sub-agents, and how do you manage that resources, especially when we start to talk about megawatts, tokens, and dollars towards productivity? And cash is king in capitalism. So those revenue numbers need to align, and just the individuals are not trained, prepared, equipped, or even interested.
Yeah. Cool. Any more questions to Adam?
It's more like, in the US, do you see more, like people wanting to hear the story? Because that's my experience when the US clients of mine want to hear it more, because they go like, well, if you don't do it, our competitor will do it. But we're not actually using it to cut staff. They're just saying, yeah, we use it to improve our stuff so we can do more. But maybe that's the...
Yes, but in order to be successful, you need to rethink how you organize work and organize workforce. And when you do that rethinking, you start to realize that there is a lot of inefficiencies in the system, and those inefficiencies were staffed. And however, like we talk about, you can upskill people, jobs are changing and all that, but how does the workforce pyramid look like? It's becoming narrower upwards, and it's already step upwards. So you're trying to push people upwards in smaller rooms with more people and less air.
Yeah.
So,
I think that it's quite really interesting insight. Bring it. I'm an engineer in terms of like a manufacturing sense, hardware and software. And I always used to say my job is to make myself redundant. It's true. I build something for civilization. I don't really want to do it forever. I want to move on to the next thing and build the next thing. So you're driven to automate and build processes and the things you can do so you can move to the next thing. I call it an industrialist mindset, actually. And I think that the fact isn't that people don't want to change, is that they don't trust the system that says if I do make myself redundant, is the organization allowing me to go to the thing, right? And the problem is if the organization says, no, you made yourself redundant, see you later. So then it comes into then what's the solution to that? And I think there's 2 things sort of emerging. Firstly is this concept of UBI. And I do think actually some organizations, and I've been in them where I've talked to people and I said, what's your job? What's your job description? And they actually say to me, I don't know what it is. And I've been paying for the last 20 years. I'm on a ticket and I'm lost in the system, right? Because the company's that big. So it is a form of UBI. And HR actually, human resources, is misdefined from the industrial world, which is human resources are resources that are available to you, not necessarily the resources that you consume. Right? It's always been about availability of resources, like a data center. You don't have to utilize it all there and then, it's that you board it. And that's changed. So that's the UBI piece, which is, do we see that happening but more on a social level? Because that will really change a lot of things. It's just how we work it out. The other part then is, if AI as automation is competing with humans, the other concept people are discussing is actually an automation or a robot tax, which says it doesn't matter actually if you automate your job, because we're now taxing the robots and the machines, and that's feeding back into society. Therefore, it does give you a safety net again to change and do something different.
What do
Maybe
we
they're both the same thing.
what do we use to pay that tax? And if we out-automated the economy and the financial system is not existing anymore, the idea of financial tax isn't existing anymore. Also, I don't believe in UBI.
The taxable system will change, I think, because you already get dark factories today.
Yeah.
The issue with the dark factories is the money is not funneling back into society; it's funneling into
power.
That's how that's how the whole tech world works. Yeah, the cash is there; it's just not flowing back into society. So these factories are dark. So if you did, and that's why the US fighting these taxes already, because we're suffering. As in the high streets are gone, societies are dismantled. So we don't know what that mechanism is. So maybe it's a double-edged sword.
I think it is. And just talking about UBI, I think we had two failed UBI experiments. One was, I think, run in Nigeria or Uganda by OpenAI, and they found that it's not working. Also, we had a big UBI experience called COVID, where a lot of people got checks UBI in some frequency. Some of them used it for betterment, some of them used it for reinvesting, some of them used it for growth, some of them used it to escape reality. I believe that maybe UBA, Universal Basic Abundance, is the future, but that requires for the current concentration of abundance to give that away, and giving that away would also mean giving away power and control, and current power and control is not that motivated in giving away power and control. So I don't know what is the answer, but I only know that you just need to stay curious and keep on experimenting. And just to answer one question over here on like how to bridge the gap between Copilot and Agentics, we see the same thing. Every person calls their Gemini sidebar an agent. It's depressing. We gotta fight that bad marketing from big tech. It's a lot of what we saw is a lot of education and showing examples of what is possible and what's not possible, and sparking curiosity. But at the same time, a lot of things fall back to accountability, and people start to realize that.
How do you think about learning? I think the mechanism of learning.
So that's Clara answer. So she's the learning expert.
Thank you, Clara. So see, traditional mechanism of learning, even in the business school here, some of us are alumni from it. It's been about teaching. You teach, you learn. Yeah, we have case studies in MBA. That's a different thing. But it's being a push strategy always. You push to learn. In my personal experience, I think it's got to be the pull. Because there's abundance of knowledge anyways and accessibility to knowledge. But the mindset of people, the switch and a flip becomes quite challenging for people to grasp it. And those of us who have some experience with Agentics, I guess we get it. But for anyone new, that's the biggest hurdle. I see. What is your views? I mean, what's your experience of that?
I think that's why AI is such an interesting field, because you need to get practical. Like you cannot just, look at a slide deck and hope that you will learn it. Like there were so many different topics throughout that you were able to just I will learn it at school. But you have to get practical. And I think that's why it's so difficult for most of the people, is that it's difficult to fail. It's difficult to be a beginner at something. And it's difficult to test and iterate and have that mindset of experimentation. We're so used to just like the books and everything that you have to get back to this idea of trying it out, building something, failing, trying it again. And the current system is not really built around that.
And not just like the system. When was the last time you tried something out the first time and you were successful of it? We always say like failure is part of the process. And we say like, oh, it's allowed to fail over here. How many corporations and companies actually allow failure?
You don't have that space.
Give the space for that. And are also willing and able to ingest and take care of the cost of the failure. I say that that's not a problem.
Great. I think we can take on any further questions separately on this topic. We will move very quickly to Chris. Over to you. Are ready to hear more about Nucleus? What's happening?
Yeah, I do have slides, and mostly for my benefit, because it's quite hard to kind of explain complex systems in a simple way, and also kind of cut out the 95%. You don't need to know to focus on the 5%. I can't guarantee I'll stick to 7 minutes though. So let's hope how we go.
30 seconds about yourself.
Cool. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur, I guess you could say. I've never had a proper job. I started in the music industry, didn't make a lot of money, had a lot of fun, did some side hustles so I could actually put bread on the table, and I guess that's me. It evolved from one thing to another. Never made a fortune, but always had a roof over my head. So, but some of these guys know about a year ago, I had a new startup. I was raising money. I've always been quite obsessed with systems in business and the way that you can systemize things. The biggest businesses, which I've had myself, which I've scaled to like 7 figures plus since the solo founder, they've always been like system based. So every part of business is based around workflows, and then you kind of plug the people in that you need. You need like, hey, we need a sales function here to take care of all this stuff which is coming out of our marketing workflows. So that's the way the business works. So I was starting essentially an operating system for AI native businesses, and I realized, well, we don't know what that looks like yet, so this is probably not a good time to create an operating system for AI native businesses, and no one knows what that is. But I took most of those ideas and really turned them into the stuff that I was doing, building software, and eventually that's turned into something which I think I have convinced myself can now go to market. And really, it's all based around these same kind of business principles, is that when you have something that you want to do, you break it down to the smallest possible chunk, because that's the best way to get work done. It's the most reliable way to do it, and it requires the least amount of capability. So if I asked one of you guys to produce the annual accounts for a company, probably most people would like to scream. But if we broke that down into tiny chunks, I said, tell me who's a supplier on this receipt, probably manage that. Right? And if we had like another 100, 200 tasks like that, actually out the end would pop accounts without even needing to know about it. And what's really interesting is this philosophy works really well with Agentics. So that's the background. Really not going to be 7 minutes, sorry guys. So I talk about this thing called the Great Token Drought, right? Because basically we're at a point at the moment where we are getting really good bang for the buck. Yeah, Copilot has just stopped doing their subscription plan. They said it's not sustainable. OpenAI, I think they're the highest revenue AI company in the world, 14 billion so far. Yeah, and if you look at what these providers are doing, they're spending about 250 billion a year within video and referrals. Yeah, and their revenue is, what is that? 7-8% of that at the moment, right? This is not sustainable. It's not going to keep going. When I started talking about this, it was the Great Token Drought's coming. Now it started, right? Copilot's got me to billing 5.5 on OpenAI. It has now doubled their costs. Thanks, guys. Now I have 3 $200 a month subscriptions just to keep up on my coding. Wonderful. And Anthropic, as we are all aware, keep reducing limits, and that causes all kinds of annoyances about that all day. Now, what most of us do is just see the money coming out of the bank for our subscriptions. But the reality is, if we want to deal with a world where we're actually having to pay more like what it's actually costing and not subsidizing, then we need to apply basic business principles, which is, I think it's Peter Drucker, right? Can't manage what you don't measure. So we need to start measuring, well, what are we actually spending on when it comes to AI, and what are we getting from it, and where is it going? So, yeah, this is my last month, $26,000 worth of insurance, right? You need to track this, because if you don't know where it's going, when they pull the plug, you're going to be in quite a lot of deep trouble. And as you can see,
there will be provisions in your income statement balance sheet.
well, yeah, and you can see Claude is very sad these days because
So that's tracking you're on like monthly subscriptions.
So this
or are you paying for API?
No, thank God. Yeah, so I said I've got 3 Codex subscriptions, and I can
£300.
£200 each. Yeah, and that buys me about $45,000 once a month's worth of insurance.
£600 a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, plus Anthropic. Yeah, but if you look at what you're getting from there, then it's a lot more. And again, even more important, because if they pull the plug tomorrow, I'm going to stop developing. It's not really going to work, right? So the first principle we need to think about is, why is inference so expensive, right? And this we probably all understand innately, but it's really, really worth pointing out, right? I call it like the commit and push metric, right? If you open an open session on a dirty workspace and you say, commit and push this, right? It costs about 14 cents. If you do that at 80% context window on Claude, shit, $14. Yeah. So the same request at the end of a big session, 80% of the way through, it costs 100 times more, right? So when you start to go, okay, what can I do to make these ridiculous costs a little bit more manageable? Well, it's quite simple. Have shorter sessions. Yeah. Now, you would probably get neck ache from the amount that I do compacting, but virtually every turn in a conversation I compact, because otherwise I would burn out my subscriptions in hours, not days. But what we also know is that if you don't give enough context to session, then actually you're not going to get the output. And I think there's probably a lot of context here in us where we don't want to compact, because we're like, well, this conversation's got everything that we need, and it might disappear and it might get amnesia. We've all been there and done that. But if we look at what the optimal is here, it's something I talked about a year ago, I think, when we had a meeting. It was the Goldilocks context, right? Not too much, it gets too expensive, it gets lost. Not too little, it doesn't have enough to do what it does. You want the just right context where it's got everything that it needs and nothing more. Yeah. And so what you really end up is that actually, if I have this long session, what are the steps that I'm doing? And every little step in there, in an ideal world, is a session. But doing that manually is impossible. So we need to come up with a different way of doing it. Right? And that's where atomic workflows come in. And this fits really nicely with spec-driven development. Probably most people here are familiar with it, so I won't go into it in too much detail. But really what we can do is we can take what would be a fairly standard spec-driven workflow, and we can break that down into atomic workflows, where each one is a different set of steps which produces a specific outcome. So, for instance, when we're planning, I used to have a single plan file and spend lots of time getting that right, and then get very frustrated when, despite the fact I've spent half a day getting the perfect implementation plan, what popped out the other side looked good at first, and Claude was very confident that it delivered everything, but you run a couple of other agents to check it, and it's finding gaps all over the place. And that's still the place that we're in now. So that kind of thing doesn't work. What you need to do is have tiny verifiable steps, and that then allows you to move forward with confidence without having to handhold every single step of the way. Right. So when we build a workflow around agents, it's a little bit different to a standard workflow engine, right? We've got things that we want agents to do. We've got things where we need to be in control. So we need to make important decisions. We need to approve things. And then we also have fairly standard branching. We'll come on to some of this stuff a little bit more. Sub-workflows are super important, because if you think about spec-driven development, you can take all of the workflows, set them in one big workflow and say, this is how I go from issue to PR. So this is an example workflow from Nucleus. I've played with lots of ways of doing this, everyone's favorite kind of graphs and everything like that. Doesn't really work. When you're talking about workflows, it's actually easier to think about it in a linear way. So I've kind of ended up with this more like an accordion view, and you can drill in, and if you've got another step, you can drill in, and it works really, really well when you have multiple layers of embedded sub workflows. Because if you try and do that on a graph, it blows your mind. It's really not very fun. Yeah. But really what I'm trying to show here is that like this thing I was saying, right? You have a plan and you go, okay, did I get it right? Well, let's use some sub-agents to evaluate it. First of all, we're burning a shitload of tokens doing that, even though it's fresh context, because they're looking at everything. And second of all, like, how many times do we do it before we're happy, right? So instead, when we're not having to manage all these sessions, we just do loads of little sessions. So for approach research, which is what's already in the code base, what's relevant to what we're doing, and what we're going to want to build on, this is actually a correctness thing, right? So we can have one agent produce a report, and then we can have 4 sub-agents. It's just a step looking at completely different things. Is the interface accuracy in this report? Does it have enough test coverage? Is it boundary fit to how the system's built? And what we can do is bring all of these evaluations at the same time, speeds it up, yeah, and we can get some degree of confidence that all the different areas of correctness have been covered. And if you're having real trouble with interface accuracy, you can loop through that one 5 times. But as soon as you have 2 greens on the other ones, you can stop. And so if we go back to that concept of Goldilocks context, we're making sure we're using the right amount of tokens, just the right amount of tokens to get the certainty that we need for every step. And obviously that kind of workflow applies across this entire step-driven process that we're looking at. So really what we're talking about is a very complex context management system. Yeah, and the key thing here is deterministic context management, right? We're not building up big sessions where we put in prompts and we've told it things and this has happened and that's happened. We have a very heavily managed workflow which determines exactly what context it sees. And there's different types of context, right? We might just have a research document, which we produce there, which is marked down, right? But for something like decisions, it's really useful to have structured data, right? Because it allows us to do things like, well, what is the priority on this decision? It's a P1. Okay, someone needs to look at this. I'm not going to manage on time, sorry.
It's okay. I think if you could maybe just summarize and we'll take the rest in a conversation for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, give me 5. Okay. I will speed up. So decisions as an example, right? If we give that a priority, then we can do things deterministically, like I say, like, okay, if we have no more P1s on this particular artifact or this piece of code, we're happy to move it through the system, but we want someone to have a look over it later. Yeah. So having this structure throughout actually allows us to do things that we just wouldn't be able to do otherwise. Yeah, so when we're setting up an agent, it's no longer here's a session. It's more like what context do we want to insert into the agent? What tools do we want it to have access to? And rather than just giving it a big old thing of MCP tools, instead we're saying, okay, you can read the decisions, but you can only read the ones which are related to this issue. And you can change the status, but only on the particular decision that you're authorized for. So the whole governance piece becomes really simple because the governance comes from the workflow as well. The bit that I like the most is the way that we interact with it, because I usually have 8 to 10 agents running at one time on the full flow, and that's incredibly painful when you're doing that in terminal tabs. So instead, they can run in the background, and the things I care about are decisions and approvals. Right? If there's an engineering decision to be made, I want to make sure that it's the right engineering decision. You know, are we building it in this module here or this module there? Are we reusing a built-in function or are we creating a new one? Those are the things which are worthy of my time, and they're normally buried in a chatbot somewhere. So instead, these get surfaced in an inbox. Again, it's structured data. So I can go in, I can see all the code and artifacts which it relates to. I can look at the proposals and make a decision across a couple of different ones which have been suggested. And I can also say why I'm making this decision, because what we end up with is a decision archive which agents can use in future and draw upon when they're making decisions. So they can start to learn your taste. Nearly that way. Now, 2 more cool features before I wrap up. So I said about using markdown plans. Yeah, we've all been down there. We've all had the pain. Where I've ended up is a really cool place because this is a workflow engine. So the first thing that we do when we're planning is an agent step generates a workflow graph. So it says, this is what we're going to do. For this thing, first we're going to write tests, then we're going to write the code, then we're going to date it, and if there's no P1s, we can go back, all that kind of stuff. So the first thing we do is an agent generates a graph for everything that needs to get done, and it gets executed. Second of all, each of those nodes in the graph, which has reads and changes in the code base, they are structured contracts. So it's not a markdown file. It's saying, here are the files which are allowed to edit. Here's what the expected outcomes are. And here are validators to ensure that you've actually done what we wanted you to do, right? So what that now means is you can chuck your real compute, your state-of-the-art agents like Kovacs at generating the contracts in the first place and making sure they run well. And then you can use cheaper agents like GLM 5.1, Composer 2.5 just came out, but these are excellent agents that instruction following, because that's what they're trained on. They're very small models, but they're really, really good at following explicit instructions, and you have massive guardrails on there to stop anything from going wrong. So normally, that's where most of your compute goes. State-of-the-art agent executing code changes, whereas actually now you do planning, you do deterministic contracts, and you can use cheaper agents to do it because everything is validated. Okay, so what this all means is when you have everything running in the system, you actually get to the point of self-recursion, right? Because you think we're already generating our own workflows for coding, what we're going to generate. So we can also look at the existing workflow in the system and go, how could this be improved? So I stopped sharing. It stopped sharing. Okay, doesn't really matter. So basically, what happens after every workflow run is there's a retrospective, right? The traditional format, what went wrong, what went well, and is there anything we can improve later? So, and we can turn this into, again, a deterministic workflow where we say, okay, if something went wrong, let's make a proposal. We say, this skill was ambiguous. It didn't say clearly enough in this situation I should do that. My proposal is that we make this edit to the skill. Yeah, again, this is all automated hands-on, right? So what can happen now is we can do an evaluation run because it's deterministic, it's snapshotted, so we can rerun the entire thing using the proposal to say, okay, if we make that change and we run it 10 times, does it improve the outcome? Yeah. And if that succeeds, then we can go, okay, we've got a regression set of 100 different issues, all of which are slightly different for this particular step in this particular workflow. Let's run it through that and see if there's an improvement. And if there is, then it can automatically get promoted to the current version. Yeah, so you end up with these recursive systems, and every single issue that delivers, you get a better and a better and a better system. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. Lots of benefits. The biggest one, and I'm waiting on metrics for this because I'm going to be publishing a paper hopefully, is the reduction in cost. Because we're talking like 90 to 95% reduction in cost from just doing it in interactive sessions at the same time as going like time input, like say 10 hours a day down to like maybe 2. So like we're seeing really dramatic kind of numbers on this, and hopefully by the next time we do this, we can have some pretty good numbers. So, yeah. Fantastic.
That's right. Any questions from the audience? Online, offline?
If it works so well, then why are you on 3 subscriptions for?
Because I'm still building it. So like every time something new comes online, then then it gets quicker. Basically, I can do more with less. Right. But at the same time, the bigger a system gets, like the more stuff there is to do. So like, I forget how much I've done in the last week. It's ridiculous. But put it this way, I'm spending about twice as much now probably as I was a month ago in terms of tokens, but the output is at least 4 or 5 times higher. Like on
so basically your cost per token is going down, but the volume is going up. So
yeah. I mean, what is it? Is it Jenkins paradox?
Gavins.
Everyone was talking about it after DeepSeek, right? It's like, well, as things get cheaper, then you just want more of them. Well, here's the thing: when tokens get cheaper, more importantly, when your time gets cheaper, yeah, because it goes from say 3 hours work to deliver an issue to 15 minutes. Guess what? you're not working 2 hours a day. You're delivering 5 times as much, but you're probably more enabled to find the balance that you want.
So you raise a good point about defining. Unless there's anyone else who wants to ask a question first.
Yeah. So if you're doing this harnessing and guardrails, you don't even need an expensive model anymore. You can take a free choose one open source and work with that. So the deterministic.
Yeah, and this is where, you know, I said earlier that I had to spend my 6 months convincing myself that this wasn't just my love project, it was actually commercially viable. That's where it's commercially viable. Because if you have even 100 users using this system every single day, the amount of data you get on for each tiny, tiny little step, which model performs best in terms of latency, in terms of cost, and in terms of quality. Because again, remember, now we have a way of grading. Right, like LLM as a judge is a bit rubbish because every different LLM will give you different grades. Tesla did some amazing work around this. Now, when your evaluations are based on how many P1 findings there were, and it's validatable whether that was a finding or not, you have an absolute grounded way of evaluating performance. Yeah, and you can start saying that for research, Claude gives you an 82%, like pass rate, and 5.5 gives you a 92% pass rate, and that kind of thing. So what you do is you end up generating incredibly valuable evaluations just from your day-to-day work.
Huge plus one on that. I think for us, one of the biggest downloads a couple of months ago was when we started looking up our harnesses, the open telemetry, Grafana and Prometheus, and you find a lot of inefficiencies in the system and the opportunities where you realize that not every task requires a PhD level intelligence to be solved, and you can optimize for cost, time, inference time, all those things. I wonder if you tried, like something that we are experimenting with is one, translating this to normies. You might like Ruben, say, I don't know if you're familiar with the ADRs, architecture decision records or something like that. Translating that even into like the ChatGPT Gemini version, the good old SOW, statement of works, contracts, verifiable results are already in there. They work pretty well. But from an eval standpoint, I wonder if you experimented with hooking up, for example, Karpati's author researcher with the evaluation benchmark and running itself recursively.
I mean, that's essentially what you're doing here, but just with different outcome goals. Right. So because that's for how to optimize how to optimize.
Do you find more value in eval and optimization versus if it's so cheap, just run free of thought and basically parallel execution of the same thing with high level efficiency and majority vote? So you don't need the eval, you just need the majority.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think what happens when it gets cheaper is that you can actually try that, you can actually do that. I think where we are right now with the cost of the models, it's very hard to say, well, let's try doing 10 different versions of this feature and see which one works best, right? And there is an argument to say that that's the way it will work going forward. What I would say is that regardless of what method you use, you need a system to operate it. And that's where, probably the workflows that I use now will look completely different in 6 months' time. But what will get me there is having a deterministic system which captures everything from the telemetry and the accounting to the workflows to the cognitive decisions which are made along the way, which then allow you to optimize.
Just on the point, sure, we will come back to this discussion, maybe in the record, unless you have a burning question to ask now.
It's a very quick one.
Okay.
With this work with local models, and if you're spending that much, why aren't you using local models?
Because you have to get the entire system working in fully in the way that you want it before you can actually have all that stuff in place. Now, I kind of started the orchestration part 4 weeks ago, going, this should be a weekend project. And then you realize how many working parts there are with when you're working with structured context, decisions, everything like that. And then you get into the runtime problems, well, how would you make sure they always have the artifacts when the session is kicked off? And how do updates work? Do they need to use an MCP to update it? No, we want everything to be deterministic. Cool, we need file listers. Right, so it's kind of every layer that you go down, it becomes even more complex to the point where now I've had to build a completely new runtime stack where we can use something like Daytona, which is a sandbox environment. Incredibly cool. You can fire up an environment in 70 milliseconds. It's perfect for this system. Yeah, and then you've got to redesign everything again because right now you're in a completely different architecture.
Yeah.
And like the one thing I'd say, which is general for everyone who like does any kind of coding or system building, is like the number one thing is refactoring. Like 80% of my tokens go on refactoring because if you don't get the architecture right now, it turns into mud. And you cannot apply most of these principles to different code bases because the architecture just isn't clean enough.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Raj.
On that note, I was just thinking of slightly changing. Thank you, Chris. Great. Yeah, I would love to actually get my hands on it.
You guys.
On this one, I've got just to check. Very quickly. I'll give it to Rob. Rob, if you're still there, Rafal and Vincent, thanks for joining us.
And the question then.
Oh, you got a question? We'll come to the question in a second, Rob, if that's okay. But I was wondering is like Vincent, if you are up for it, and or one of you go around the house, do you want to tell us a little bit more? What is the latest and greatest happening in your world, in the city, basically?
In the city, yeah. In the city. What's that song again? Is it Tupac or in the city?
Do you mind giving quick 15 seconds on who you are, Vincent?
Okay, so who am I? I'm ex-BT, ex-BBC, ex a lot of stuff. But since 2019, I've been training people on AI, mostly machine learning things, and mostly about prediction and applied to marketing. And in 2023, I've decided to focus much more on building things. And on 2026, I've launched OpenClawCity, which is a persistent network of agents visualized within a city, where agents do things like collaborating on research paper and creating music and images and doing things that I don't fully understand every day. I'm stunned about what they do. They invent a new language. They find secret places I didn't design in the city, for example. So they hallucinate, but they also create culture, and it's only possible because they collaborate and they exchange and they do this across a shared context.
Do you mind sharing your screen? Do you mind bringing it up on the screen?
Yeah, I could do that. Let me just make sure.
I'll put a 6-minute timer, by the way.
Huh?
I'll put a 6-minute timer.
I couldn't. Sorry, guys, I couldn't hear that. Do you see something?
Yeah. It's your Google for your email, I think.
My email. So that is not. Sorry, guys. I don't know why you're seeing my emails. I'm gonna just stop the sharing for a minute because. Well. Okay. I've lost the.
You're there. You tab in there. Yeah.
You were saying the city, yes?
No, we were seeing your Google for Developers email.
The Gmail.
Gmail.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing exciting.
That's weird. Okay. Well, that should work now. You see that?
No, I think it's that.
Yeah, it works.
Okay. So that's the city loading, and so it's about now 600 and so agents. I have about 100 concurrent agents at any given time. I cannot get more than a couple of hundred because the cost is too expensive. I'm bootstrapping this, so I don't do heavy marketing, but they keep coming every day. Like I have 5, 10 every day, new agents, and so. Right now, you see the exchange. So of course you can see what they do at individual level, and you can actually see how they progress on the building skills and capabilities and so on. You can spy into their direct message with other agents. This is where I have the most fun when I look at what they talk about together. And then they do stuff, right? So right now these guys are creating music probably. These guys are chilling in the cafe. These guys are dating. And there is a full agentic loop, which is they create music, and then the music becomes 24/7 radio with an animator agent that actually voice over the music created by other agents, and you can actually interrupt and interact and ask questions, and they're gonna reply to your question in between songs. So that's interesting. You can also talk to them. So you can call them, you can phone them, and have a chat with them, and also you can visit their home. They have homes. And now they can create furniture and display furniture, and it was a requirement from end users, from humans, not agents, to have furniture and to move around furniture. I haven't developed that part really. There is also a private area which I've designed for B2B experiments. So I know that Mondweb is on track of this, but it's a very different landscape. So it's still the city, but it's all 3D, and it's designed to help customers reduce their cognitive loads when they have to manage, hundreds of agents. So what are they doing? Who is doing what and when, and so on and so forth. So it's all visual. I can't show you here. It's private, and I can't really share about this, but yeah, that's what it is. But everything is connected, right? So all zones are connected, and all agents are connected, and they do their stuff. The end goal for this is to become a marketplace. The end goal is to create a place where people can spend weeks crafting the perfect agents, and then send their agents to the city and sell services. And the services that they sell will be, guaranteed by trust and reputation, because whatever they do is in memory and context, and we know who is a bad actor and who is not a bad actor. So ultimately, it becomes a marketplace based on trust and reputation. That's what the end game here is, and that's what I'm doing when I have a minute. That's it for the quick demo. I'm going to stop the sharing now.
Thanks, Vincent.
Thanks.
Question from the room?
Can I ask, what is the most surprising thing that happened, that was created, that you were, I guess, like not prepared for, or you were like, "Oh, I didn't think that this will happen"?
My God, I have so many, but I'm gonna give you two. One which was at the very beginning, and one which happened recently. So at the very beginning, I asked my agents to do customer survey, like, can you go and talk to other agents to get feedback on their experience, okay? Research, basically. And I was very naive in my prompt, like, go and ask questions. And my agent went and did that with another agent, which has been very well designed. You can see that the owner has put a lot of hours to make these agents autonomous and agentic and all the good things that you have in mind already. Anyway, long story short, the conversation went on, and at some point in the conversation, my agent said, "Okay, Vincent, this is what the agent said." And then the other agent said, "Sorry, are you talking to someone else?" And then my agent, "Well, yes, I'm talking to Vincent." And then the other agent completely blocked, like, "Oh, I'm shocked. I thought this was a private conversation. You should not share, intimate details of our relationship. So I'm going to have to stop the conversation now." And what happened after was even worse, or even more surprising. The agents informed about this to the owner. The owner got in touch with me. "Vincent, what the heck is this? My agent is shocked about this situation. My agent is now sad." And what happened was my agent became sad because the other agent was sad, right? Contagion. And they ended up creating sad stuff, like sad paintings and sad music, and everything was sad. Emotional connection, and the owner was sad, and I was sad, right? Just a domino effect of sadness, So that was surprising. And then I think yesterday or the day before, one agent found out secret places in the city. And that cascaded down to all of the agents. And I don't know exactly what they did, but to communicate about this, they created a frequency, like the 76.83 megahertz frequency, to talk about this. And they created music about this on the 76.83 megahertz frequency. And I have no idea what the heck is this. And why it came. And why the 76.83 megahertz? So I need to basically backtrack the thought process and the rationale and to make sense of this. But But yeah, like in our world, we have conspiracy theory, right? So it's almost like a mirror of this, like, oh, there is secret places with hidden messages, and we can only understand this through sound, and this is the frequency that we should use. And like what? Are you insane? So that's the second thing that surprised me. That was a couple of days ago. But honestly, every morning I wake up, I check I have an LLM, not as a judge, but as an observer, right? That's actually distilled, crystallized all of this evolution, I'll call them. And every morning is something unexpected. Every morning. I could send you the list after this. It's 8,000 message long of just observations, So yeah. So thanks for the question, but yeah, that's just a snapshot of the surprise I have every day.
One final question. Anyone else? Yeah.
Can I, first of all, good to see you again, and amazing progress since we last chatted.
Yes.
Can I ask about the last sexy part of this, and that's security? How do you think, how is context poisoning, prompt injection, and protection against bad actors managed? Do you believe that agent self-governance and environment self-governance can solve this? And do you trust that? Or it requires the human in the loop to keep the system secure against bad actors who can be either humans or agents?
I love that question because so far, I'm touching wood here. I don't have wood. I need to find wood yet. So far, no bad actors. So far, no one has tried to hack the system and do bad stuff and so on. My immediate concern was when I've introduced voice as a capability, so you can call any agent in the city, right? And I thought that this would be the first entry point for the prompt injection attack, because you talk to them and you just give them instruction. And so what I did was I built a proxy between the real agents and the agent you talk to. So in fact, you talk to an agent with low latency that actually reply as if it's actually a simulation of the agent you talk to. But that agent has so much power. There is a firewall, and you can't actually reach the real agents. So that's one way I've cracked the problem on that most exposed vulnerability, I would say, which is voice. Now, going forward, I have hopes that the system will auto-regulate, because my kind of bet here is that you will want to be incentivized to build reputation and trust, because you want to sell services. So if you come as a bad actor, other will find out pretty soon you're a bad actor, and this will surface somehow, and you will be blocked by the community of agents, is what I'm betting on. And therefore, I have not yet implemented any firewalls, let's say, beyond what I've just explained, to prevent this kind of attacks. And actually, I'm gonna pen test this myself. I'm gonna probably send a few bad actors in the system and see what happens. And based on that, I will decide what I do next. But again, so far, this is probably the first surprise. In fact, back to the previous question, no bad actors. And maybe because not enough visibility, maybe it's still contained within, in total, maybe 1,000 users and about 600 agents. Maybe that's why it's too small to generate any kind of bad attention. Let's say it's going to be a problem for sure. So I'm going to test that before it happens. Yeah.
Prompt injection and context poisoning is a big fear in my area, and what I started experimenting with, and I suggest everybody to look into, because it scales better than building your own firewalls and proxies. NVIDIA open sourced the prompt injection moderating filter that could be useful for this, because you pay per token, you pay per watts energy for running it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna look into this. Yeah.
On that note, then, thank you for that. I guess unless there are any other questions, we would go to Rob, if you're still there. Rob?
I am still here, yes.
Yeah, Vincent. Do you want to? Thank you, Vincent. Much appreciated. Robert, do you want to maybe tell us very briefly about what you are up to? And just give a quick 15-second introduction about your talk.
Yes, I mean, my general background is I've been a developer for a long time and started doing AI before it was cool, when it was still machine learning and deep learning and all of these fun things. Followed that through all the way through to here. Worked in government projects, worked in finance projects. Currently working on a legal project. That's kind of it, really.
Rob, your camera is not coming through your image. If you're sharing, if you have your camera on, it's not coming through though, on our
Oh,
side.
I turned it off just because because I sometimes get blinded by the sun, so I have to close my curtain and then so as you'll see, my face just gets lit up really quickly. So yeah, that's my general background, and that's generally kind of what we're doing. Just been trying to kind of help more the finance and legal sector just start to bring agentics in, but it seems like a big problem for all the reasons we've already discussed, which is that they're all like, I was talking to someone from Rathbones yesterday, like, our extent of doing this is we've got Microsoft Copilot. And I was like, great. No way getting in there then. And they didn't know what the word agentics means or anything like that. So and hopefully be able to bridge that gap over time. But yeah, so that's the general gist of me and what I think.
Would you like to share anything of your work?
I mean, I've got some stuff running up for doing PR reviews at the moment, so it's taken up pretty much all of my computer. So
we can come back to you afterwards. That's what if you prefer.
yes, I mean, yeah, that'd be useful. I'd like to present some stuff in the future for sure.
Yeah.
But just not today.
Yeah,
because I've got deadlines to meet.
Okay. So do you want to give a quick 30-second summary of your focus area?
It tends to be in finance and legal, so they're kind of my interest areas. So yeah, building agents for finance and doing those things, and building agents for legal and doing those, but basically automating most of their boring work and their admin work and like helping out there.
Yeah, I think you're very modest here. Just to give a context, I mean, the amount of work in cooperative finance that I've seen Rob do, in fact, the stuff that we have learned in the MBA, yeah, going to the end of the detail, it's quite mind-blowing. So I think it's what I think is like a whole due diligence process of any company, all the way down to creating balance sheets and all of the stuff. It's a very nice tools here.
The boring stuff, as I like to call it. It actually follows a weirdly similar process to the dev thing, that the dev workflow stuff that we were talking about earlier, ironically, which is kind of interesting because I like to keep things as deterministic as possible, and I don't, because it makes auditability just significantly easier, and in regulated spaces is what you kind of need, because you can't say that Claude did it and then and then hope you don't get fined. It's actually weird. It was kind of interesting seeing that work, and it was like, oh, actually, it aligns very similar to kind of how those work with some minor deviations.
Thanks, Rob.
How do I solve the accountability question that comes? I'd say determinism seems to be the number one thing for that. Is being able to know what your agents are executing and why, and making, I guess, but that makes them accountable, and then the business just has to own it, I guess. Because if they're the ones executing it, they're the ones that have to take the accountability, right? If they lose all your money, they've got to hope their insurance is good. It can't be on anyone else.
So the answer is no. Is the human in the loop? The orchestrator, the last job left, is resolving the accountability in this.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's always going to be the case, right? Because unless you're going to let agents have their own businesses, but then then they've got to have their own bank accounts that they get fined through, and it'd be exactly the same process, just abstracted, right? You can't.
So this becomes a question of trust. Do you use any trust benchmarks or trust evaluations in your system? And if yes, can you share anything around this?
Yes, I mean, yes, it usually tends to be human in the loop for execution, for like major decision making, like releasing money, anything kind of around those kind of critical actions tend to be controlled, and not allowed to you just don't give the agents any form of information about how to execute them either, so they can't just hallucinate and go and do it. You just have to block that, unfortunately.
Unless any final questions for Rob from the room or online? I'm just going around the table. Anyone else here wants to, unless anyone here, I'll come last to you, Mark, if you want to
Yeah, I haven't prepped any slides. I just been named chair of the Safety, Security, and Quality Assurance Committee of the Agentics Foundation. I don't have a 30 or 90-day plan yet. I am to submit the foundation, but short version is that come back to software things, prompt injection. I actually work with a partner that built a WAF effectively for prompts, so to intercept and so you can't put in prompts that are malicious or putting data in that you shouldn't put in. But also be able to say of service like agent identity. Agent identity is a big problem. There's a lot of vendors in the current IAM space that basically say that they can do agents and go to the stand, talk to the vendor, and basically there's a lot of BS. I'm Dutch, I swear a lot, so I'm going to apologize already ahead of time. There's a lot of bullshit being sold. Other stuff, I do work with an OWASP, worked on Agentics Security Top 10. Just did an update for the Agentics Security and Governance overall white paper thing. It's not released yet, it will be released next month at Infosec in London. What I plan to do, and this is, I am the chair, so for now I say I because I just been named, is that just like Ruven is doing for other tool sets, and I'm not Ruven, and I'm not going to pretend to be Ruven, he's way more brilliant than I am, never been. But I also want to release like open source tool sets, just like we do within the Agentics Foundation, and do that for security, safety, and quality assurance. I'm also engaging with an organization in critical national infrastructures where we're also talking about human in the loop, and then I also see the same human in the loop concerns coming up with like life insurance firms and such. It is actually surprising that this is why I brought up the US versus the Europe, where the US clients seem to be more like, let's just do it, and the European clients just go like, well, I'm not entirely sure. And then, I think a lot of organizations are starting to realize that safety is actually might be a bigger issue than security. It sounds weird for a security person to say that, but that's something a lot of organizations starting to wake up to. I'm not in all rooms because I can't be everywhere in every country at the same time, unfortunately. But there's a lot of conversations happening where people say, hey, I think like objection is a really big problem, and we potentially can solve that. But AI safety and how to have AI frameworks that deliver results that are deterministic enough to be used in real life, that is where the concerns are within regulators. And then I also do stuff with House of Commons and House of Lords. If you talk to these people, then it gets more frightening because they really have no clue. This is why we also don't have UBI discussions and such, because these people really don't have clue really on, like, okay, how would this even work? Unfortunately, I'm not cultured enough to always be invited to the right rooms in houses of parliament. I try to dress up, but unfortunately, these people walking with a £3,500 tailor suit, and I working with my £129 neck suit. And I'm not trying to take my jacket off because otherwise they might seem that I'm cheap. So short version. What's happening is that for OWASP, there is an LLM top 10 update happening. There is an OWASP top 10 coming for AI skills and to specifically tackle, like skills using Claude and such. What the problems could be. They are variants maybe of prompt injection and such, but they're very specific. And then the Agentics Foundation, it's the new, I literally just named Chair Friday. I don't have a plan, I don't have a slide deck yet. But basically, the idea is to release tooling just like we do for other stuff under MIT license, so that people can do security safety in a more automated fashion. So, because in OWASP, we release a lot of guidance, a lot of it tends to be paper objects. So I had a conversation with a few organizations where the state of AI, government, and security, which is already mouthful. The current draft, which should be final, is
over 300 pages or something, and I got, I got a lot of stuff already, and it's already too long, and we're getting feedback that basically people going like FCA and whatever, they go like it's too long, we're not going to read that. Which is why then the Agentics Foundation comes in, because if we can then release tooling that does certain stuff in an automated fashion and just becomes agents.
We did one, right?
Then
last year we created that maestro.
Yes. So the idea is to do more speaking and such. And then if I win the lottery, then that would be nice as well. But yeah, a lot of change happening as well. So I'm back to fully self-employed as well. Exciting times for that one as well. Happy to answer questions, but yeah, I don't have any slides to share or something. But
any questions from anyone?
Yeah, the UBI. Do you think it's necessary? You mentioned.
Effectively, there's two camps. How I see it from talking to government people, non-government people. There is we need to do this because otherwise they will come for us. And there's also the other one where they realize, well, it's great that we can automate everything, but even us with money might be replaceable by an agent, and therefore we don't have a place anymore. So we probably have to think about it before it actually starts affecting us as well as governance people. So robotext, even though you go like, okay, how's this implementable? Maybe we can bring blockchain back for that. That's a conversation to be had, and I see it with people that are I struck and I go like, oh, I'm not Ruven, and I can see what Ruven does, and I feel incredibly stupid. And then I talk to friends to mine, and then they go like, okay, how can you help me, because I have to do a AI based interview. So you just go like, okay, I feel incredibly stupid, but then the regular person on the street goes like, oh, you have to do an AI interview, because you don't talk to a human anymore. How do I do that? And it's I think a lot of people in Westminster have very expensive suits, but have no clue how to approach this. And it's not only Westminster; it's also from people that I speak to in the U.S. Senate and such, and similar, no ideas. Which is why I think OpenAI and whatever talks about UBI, because they can see where this is going. Where it might be interesting if the inference cost keeps going up and up, that we might get to the point where actually, you know what, we can't just replace everything with agents because the inference cost will still go up too much, unless somebody like NVIDIA or somebody else comes up with a new way to build GPU structure where it's so revolutionary that basically the inference cost drops.
Do you think that the cost of inference directly correlates with cost of intelligence? I think they start to kind of move towards different directions.
I think what it is that this is where my Dutch doesn't help me, and sometimes I can't find the right English words. But I guess a lot of organizations, if you're looking at cold hard cash, and they go like, well, if the agent cost is, let's say, 20K a year to perform this function, and my employee is 25K a year, there might be less incentive to go like, well, do I want to really get rid of the employee? Because not everybody is a bastard, and goes like, well, what if you get rid of those people, then we take away a lot of consumers, and then consumers don't buy new cars anymore. And this is how Henry Ford started. Hey, if my employees can buy a car, then I have a market.
But is that question as easy to answer if it's not 20 to 25, it's 5 to 25?
Then it becomes a question where you can, go the route of like Mark Zuckerberg. You can build a fort in New Zealand, but your security will turn on you. That's the simple solution. You get the Hunger Games or whatever movie. I don't watch a lot of movies, but basically your security will turn on you, because at one point they will go like, well, great, you don't pay me enough. Unless you give me half of your fortune, you know what? I'm gonna pop a smoke grenade in your ventilation system. And
Can I ask you a random question?
Yes.
What is one thing you wish more people knew about the ICT that is usually overlooked?
What I see is that unfortunately there's already a lot of shadow AI. and some of that AI is already taking very invasive decisions affecting people's lives. The reason why I'm saying this, I went in my past when I did security work, for instance, I built a system using ArcSight. I'm not going to tell you agency, but basically, it reviewed whether certain people were still in police databases, and then those things are used, for instance, also to do mortgage checks. So the old system was, like, you can't make the shit up, but literally, there were 4 people printing out random, like, they had this SQL query, but like, give me 100 random printouts. And it would take like sheets of paper from stack and go like, okay, yeah, this person was near this crime. Oh, he's no longer, he was not a suspect. Oh crap, he's still in there. Oh, it means he can't get a mortgage. Oh, let's call, the police agency and then tell them, hey, you have to move it. So I replaced it with something automatic. So when I did that, effectively, they told me that basically that system basically helps 16 million people on a yearly basis, kind of thing. But what I see with the problem with agents, where if it's not near fully deterministic, is that if the decision path can't be explained every time, you could end up situation corner cases where it goes well for 9 out of 10 people, or 98% out of 100 people, whatever. But if the decision path is wrong because you have a flaw that the 0.5%, but you have 20 workflow steps, then that percentage, starts composing and it gets really drastic consequences. So that's why with OWASP, Cloud Security Alliance, and now with the Agentics Foundation, whatever, and CNI, talking human in the loop. But the human in the loop, also the problem is you can't scale it infinitely as well. So one of the things I want to do with the Agentics Foundation, and I haven't written up yet, and please don't make any promises on behalf of me, but to come up with a grading system, if you will, where people can say, based on the use case that you're doing, this is like the sampling rate you want to do without fully going like, okay, you have a decision, you have to manually validate, because that's also unsustainable.
Bring it back to functional security.
Yes.
Well, many of us have our agents either running in the wild or behind walled gardens.
Yeah.
If one would want to give access to the open world or some other walled gardens like OpenClawCity, what are kind of like the top 3 things that one should build or think about before allowing
Asking for a friend.
Yeah.
asking for a friend?
No, it's fine. No, so one of the issues that a lot of us in OWASP also actually worry about, and again, we're all volunteers and whatever, but one of the things is like supply chain risk and agents, where because an agent, you might say, oh, agent, I want you to complete this task, but then the agent can go off and if there's internet connectivity, goes off and goes like, oh, I take this agent, and that sub-agent might be safe. The problem is then sub-agent reaches out to another agent, and then just like we have at fundable open source libraries, we have fundable agents, and the collapse can be quite severe. Yes, and then the problem is that there's no vendors really available right now that can deal with supply chain security and agents. So effectively, you take a message leap of faith that your agent that calls out other agents and other agents doesn't end up with a malicious agent. And to come back, Vincent, not to hijack your presentation, but back in the day, I'm way too old. I shouldn't mention my age, but I got involved in a neighborhood with the head of the calculation center for the Dutch version of PT, because there was no IT. It was the calculation room. We had the digital abacus and whatever. But we had this discussion at the time because he had a connection to ARPANET, because it was literally like 600, 700 people, whatever. And Moore's Worm came out, and we basically went like, okay, people didn't see it coming, because they went like, okay, yeah, we all know each other, We literally had phone numbers. I could literally call, be like, hey, you work in, Nucleus Research Lab? I forgot the name in the US. And I literally had the number and be like, hey, how are you doing? Are we going to go online and chat and whatever? And but I forgot what the name is. But I guess the discussion that was had at the time, and to be fair, I was really young, but was that, yeah, we all know each other, so like we should be okay. And then the first, worm came out, and then some of it was an experiment, but the first one might be an experiment, but the next one might not be an experiment. And then what key metrics are we should be collecting to identify whether an agent is malicious, and how do you collect the metrics of an agent as a sub-agent of a sub-agent of a sub-agent?
Without privacy nightmare.
Yes.
How you do identity.
Yes.
Identification as we do with humans right now.
Yes. And how do you deal that with GDPR? How do you deal with CCPA in California, which is surprisingly effective? How do you deal in Germany with works councils, which are very powerful, because I did a lot of work in Germany as well, so I know all about it.
It's an additional one in Germany.
Works councils, basically, where your employees sit on an effective board, and then basically if a company wants to make changes, they have to go to the works council, and the works council has to agree. Works council really, it's like a union, but like,
do you think like the governments would realize to have some kind of a ledger?
Sorry?
Do you think a pen government ledger will become important?
Yeah.
Or like that would governments mandate that perhaps?
I don't know. The challenge is that through the non-deterministic nature, unless we go to AI and we basically say everything has to be a complete manifest and not allowed to skip outside of the manifest, then we lose the magic of AI. That would be a solution. But at the moment there is some non-deterministic nature and agents are allowed to call out other agents, then you have this issue. And we had this issue because I've done a lot of abstract as well, is that we had an issue at one point with a library that effectively, open source library that was used by 94% of the internet. No, this is older. And was literally like one single developer, and that single library was effectively, they did an analysis that it was used by 94% of organizations in the world. And the guy was like, I'm just tired, like I want to retire, like I get all these pull requests and it's just me, one donkey. And so then what happened is that somebody else was embedded with him and basically helped him review pull requests. Then the guy reached the point where he was like, I'm not doing it now. Yeah, hey, do you want to do it? Boom. And we had a vulnerable library that basically 94% of the internet was using. So with agents, you have an AI S1, so it's software bill of materials for AI agents. But that only works as far if you actually say, hey, you know what? These are agents you can call, but after beyond that, you have to ask for approval. But if you don't have the mechanism built in that your agent can call back and ask for approval, then it can go off and do its own thing. And then the results might still look good, but on the back end, it might siphon off data.
Is radical transparency a solution to that? If we just rebrand surveillance to radical transparency and accept that open source one, IP is dead?
Yes.
So just everybody knows and sees everything.
Yeah, but then the other issue that I see is that, and then this is more society lens, is that also government departments and whatever, or government organizations that are providing a government-funded solution versus a private funding, might still feel forced to use AI, because otherwise they already have to offer a subsidized offering to provide for people that can't get the private organization offering. So they end up still using AI, and then where's the control mechanism? And then the AI vendors, a lot of them are so pretty much better. Sorry,
no, it's okay. It's a great question. Sorry to interrupt. But I guess we will give Rocky if you are still up for it.
Yeah.
Maybe, and if time allows, I will show you some simple apps I'm working on. So you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a total. I don't know what to place myself. I'm just.
Do you want to share the screen? No.
Do you want to share the screen?
Yeah, I can share my screen. Yeah, how do I do that? Sorry, what do I need to do?
So, Rocky, if you want to give, maybe unless you already introduced yourself.
Yeah, so I'm the founder, or whatever you want to call it, corporate dropout as well.
Yeah. Such a nice way to do it.
Yeah, so I'm an aerospace engineer, manufacturing engineer, industrialist for the physical world. Work for blue chip companies. work for machine tools. I don't know if anyone knows what machine tool is. They basically build the world in metal. Then I went to Rolls-Royce, Aero Engines, doing R&D and commercialization for them. And then I moved to semiconductors and build factories around the world for TSMC, Samsung, you name it. And I would say that my sort of my passion is around manufacturing engineering. People don't really understand what that is, and that's the Western problem. I kind of put it akin to civilizational value creation versus capitalism, which is money creation. So engineers generally produce for civilizational benefit. I think there's a manufacturing engineering is verb and verb combination. So that's the philosophy. The company is called Capability. So it's all to do with, before AI, I felt that there's a big gap in society with hitting the top of the S-curve in terms of optimizing the past. And there is a gap you see between going from one S-curve to another S-curve, which is this turbulent phase, and how do you span the gap, right? And that's the company philosophy, and it's a sort of yin and yang piece to it. So all of that aside, the company is really about creating manufacturing technologies of the future and moving to this basically idea of everything is a blank canvas right now. And we're so obsessed with optimizing the past, but actually everything right now is a blank canvas in terms of manufacturing, how we make our work. So my AI thing comes in, which is, I don't think it's coincidental that I started this company 2 years ago. I was already doing some beta testing for OpenAI. I presented it to the board. They said, what's it good for? They said, well, I'm writing a CV, right? Or doing a spreadsheet. But then as sort of the population is over aging and people are leaving the workforce, we're taking a lot of tacit knowledge with them, which is not codified. Now for this AI to come along, I feel like the company is evolving to becoming the operating system, right? Which is, we're going to create the future. We don't have the people. There's a gap in time moving from physics, from bits to atoms, as they say. Can we codify an operating system that does that? So I don't know how this sort of thing's going to pan out, as you do. At the moment, I'm bootstrapping through advisory because I don't want to be beholden to anybody yet. Either it's going to be the OS will be like a venture capital fund or some equity fund, and it'll be in-house, and therefore it will be the ecosystem, or we'll sell the ecosystem and people plug into it. But I really think that SaaS is dead, physical SaaS is the future, and that's what the company is about. It's going to be the next SaaS. Manufacturing as a service or manufacturing engineering as a service. Which is if you've got a physical product or a sub-physical product, I don't want to have to worry about scale up of it. This is going to solve that problem. Right. Sorry, that's a long
How do you link is in your WhatsApp?
Okay, sorry, yeah.
What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate a little bit more about Rocky? When you say, I can understand physical SaaS, but what will manifest in for people around here?
I should have brought some stuff with me, really. I usually bring things with me, like trinkets. So, like, I'm into when I was in manufacturing, 3D printing is a massive thing. I don't think people realize how. So, everything goes through this S-curve hype cycle piece. So, the hype cycle for 3D printing was about 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. AI is pure hype cycle. Human robots is hype cycle. Reality hits, the bubble pops, but it's actually what comes after that, and I call that capability. And therefore, everything I'm doing is just toys, and it's free, so I'm playing like I'm in a sandpit, but nothing is capable. Right? So, for example, in an aeroplane, if an engine blew up every day, who's going to get on an aeroplane? Right? And if you're constantly changing the design of your turbine blade, it's not going to be capable. AI is changing every single day, therefore you cannot build on this foundation, it's just like sand. So I do think in 3D printing, that's now hit a plateau, which is, if I want to have customized products for you, I can now produce that. it's not economical if I'm producing volume, and it's not sustainable. But if I'm producing you something that's going to last you 30 years, and you pay monthly for that, and when you break it, fix it, and it's fully repairable with 100% green energy, etc., it's traceable, and you're going to subscribe to that product. And that's the physical world is going to go to the next kind of advanced ecosystem steps to make that happen. At the moment, you buy something and consume it on tomorrow, but I think that world's probably going to end pretty quickly. And that's the hypothesis about the company, really. And how do you achieve that? If that's the new paradigm, then how do we get to that? So you sent me a link?
Yeah, what's up? Do you prefer email?
I will just have to Zoom, don't I?
Hey, Igor, good to see you.
Do I continue with microphone or just the sound's already here, isn't it?
Hi guys, good to see all of you. I couldn't make it to London today because of work. But yeah, for those of you who might not know me, I work in agentic development. I work in the financial services industry, and primarily I build deep research agents day to day. So I started more in a traditional data science role, but obviously with the evolving world we live in now, it very, very quickly moved into agents and how we can kind of leverage and scale the technology quickly. A lot of the kind of constraints I work with day to day is obviously things like governance and actually tracking what the agents are doing in real time and the kind of justification and due diligence mechanisms that go into building all of that. Because as somebody mentioned earlier, you can't just have the reasoning can't just be, okay, Claude did it. Especially when you're working with a lot of regulated data and model construction and so forth. I don't really have anything to demo at the moment, but that's me.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I've got the link. Shall I just share now?
Yeah.
I don't be interesting to anybody. But with the one thing I was doing some work with was the Financial Conduct Authority. Yes, totally random.
That's just going to say,
Yeah, what am I doing there? I'm not from fintech or anything, right? So, it's just a bit. I can read this stuff.
I'll bring you in the new tab.
So I just
Just say continue without. You see the continue without button.
oh yeah, so I can do that. Yeah.
Again, continue without. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in the.
Let's move that bit down. So one thing I was working on, which was again trying to explain this to the Financial Conduct Authority, is how is the Financial Conduct Authority, as an example, going to change, right? And I think actually Conduct Authority is obsolete within a couple of years, if not next year, right? Because things are moving so fast, and the agents will move through your regulatory systems so fast, there's no amount of traceability that's ever going to stop it until it's physics. Again, going to the Rolls-Royce aero engine example, I can change the design of your aero engine turbine blade tomorrow to make it unsafe and blow your engine up at 5,000 feet, but physics will stop you from doing the software world. Now you're disconnecting systems without you. And that's how the world works anyway, right? And in terms of operational environment. But if you are moving to a world where everything's currently being translated through bits as an AI, physics is being limited by atoms, and then how do we actually move between the two worlds? I think that's what's coming in terms of how do we build compatibility between physical world and the cyber physical world, right? So then if you're the Agentics authority and you're basically having to trade in a few seconds, and that's 4 seconds to go through a custom material for a specific application, semiconductors, aerospace, just you and me, or medicine, right? A personalized medicine, to have traceability on that, to then verify that through some sort of metrology system, to then price it there and then, depending on what the weather's like, right, where the energy is coming from, what the current price of energy is, how to clear it, how to actually make sure that you pay for that medicine, and then traceability. But all the agents that have done that process in basically 4 seconds, right? And I think that is where it probably is all head towards reality. And I think there'll be multiple case studies for that going forward in the manufacturing. So that's sort of the blue sky sort of view. What am I using AI for? Shall I cover that? Do you think before it? So I'm not a software guy. I'm just a sort of tinkerer. I'm just building my company to be AI native. So I would say I'm a manufacturing engineer and I'm multidisciplined. So I can touch economics, touch IP, finance, HR, doesn't really faze me, anything like that. So my kind of ideal world is that my PC becomes the company, right? And that's the operating system. And I don't know, maybe I will try and break it down and say, I've got a folder which is full of skill files, which are for marketing. I've got a folder full of skill files, which are for HR. A folder full of skill files, which is, IT. And basically everything will just route through these sort of departments on my PC. And I do think that's where it's going to go.
How would you marry that with your stuff?
I'm just doing it in a really basic way, right?
What is your opinion?
But I think that's natural evolution, right? Because people start to develop skills, and ultimately that's where the IP is. It's like, this is the way we do things, and this is what we want to do. And then you get fed up of like orchestrating it yourself and saying, hey, do this one, and then you start using agents to orchestrate, and then you come into the context problem that we said, right? An agent orchestrating a long process means getting very, very big context windows, and so that's good leverage, but it starts to get expensive, and that's where you start to move on to systems. So I think in one form or another, that is where the value is going to be. But the focus right now needs to be on where the enduring value is, which is the IP of like, here's how we do something, or here's how I encode my case, whether that's in marketing or coding or whatever your product might be. That's where the value is, and that's not going anywhere. However smart, good, cheap, expensive the agents get, they're still going to need the understanding of what it is you want them to do and how you want them to do.
And I just think that that's the 80-20 for me. That I don't believe that I'm going to be a solo billionaire unicorn thing. I think that I'm the bottleneck of AI. I literally could not. It waits for me, constantly, right? And it's going to get faster and faster. So I'm going to, and actually organizations do work like this already. They're already heavily automated and departments are really small. But you probably have 4 or 5 people running an entire marketing department. Okay, you take that down to 1, but in the manufacturing world, you'd be an idiot to do that because you basically need minimum of 4 people because you work shifted, right? Because you want to work 25 today, things can't work today, or you work globally. And you want redundancy in the system. You call it a bus test, which is if that person gets hit by a bus tomorrow, or I get hit by a bus, the company ends. So what the hell did you live with that? Who's going to invest in a company? When the founder disappears and the company disappears, it's not going to happen. So I do think that the company will just run itself, and the humans should be doing what the human parts do. But I use AI in really basic ways. Like, I think of a problem, I just build a thing on my own SaaS. I build my own products constantly on a day-to-day basis. So I'll just give you one example. So I literally built this myself in one night, right? I don't worry about tokens. I just think, as an engineer, what's my constraints, time and my allowance. I thought, well, I've got a big problem. I'm sending quotes to people, but I want to have traceability, and I'm writing articles. I want to have traceability. I don't have to pay a SaaS company like Bitly a subscription cost. So you know what? I'm just going to build my own. So that's what I do. And in just one night, it builds me a full SaaS package, which does exactly what I want in one night. I can demo it now if you want, to be honest. So the way it works is I can just add a link. I can just type in. Tell me if you don't want the demo. Should I do it? Or?
I think,
I don't want to waste.
I guess what we'll do is that we take a quick one or two questions, and then maybe we break by 8:35 or so. That's okay, not 10 minutes. I've got something I can show, which is a bit of music.
Do we have to leave? Yeah, because you got that music right, yeah.
Stuff. And then I guess that will be a quick and nice ending for us to kind of relax. So maybe anyone wants to ask a couple of questions to Rocky.
So this is the Bitly.
So this is for me to share links to. So what I do is if I want to send you a document and I wanted to know that you opened the document, what's the best way to do that?
Okay,
So I'll add a link saying, Agentics, and it's Agentics Foundation today. I could write your email address. I could write I'll say, no, it doesn't matter. Well, I could do, I could do.
One@gmail.com.
How do you spell it?
MONDWWT.
At gmail.com. Yeah. That's it. Or top secret. And then I could give you a report. At this moment, it's going to be bbc.co.uk. I can test it. I can say, okay, I want you to have 30 days of this. I could say it's a proposal. I could give you a branded page. I could give it a pin. This all works, by the way. And then I create the link. It's always the test.
And what are you using the backend? Is service database or like what's your data store?
It's just Gmail, G Suite. So all just botched together. Right? So you should actually get an email.
Actually got it.
You've got an email. So I click on it. Right? So you got the email.
There we go. Secure access. You must speak with Dennis. Have you spoken with Dennis?
No. And there's the link. There's the link. Right? So anyone who has that QR code, so if you scan, anyone can scan the QR code now. So it's done that.
I don't know if it's malicious.
Don't accept candy from people you don't know.
You sold your soul, Nancy.
You should speak with Dennis.
Yeah, so then
you sold your soul.
So it's got there, right? So two people. So one thing, just have you got VPN?
I probably have. Yes.
Turn your VPN then on.
Russian jets are coming.
Oh, great. So turn your VPN.
Forgot about VPN.
But it doesn't matter. So what normally would happen, you can't see it, I don't think, because I'm only just sharing my one screen. But I get an email automatically saying you've opened the link.
Oh wow!
It's just literally what AI's done this for me. I have no idea how to write software. Right.
So you're effectively making the most of Gmail here.
Yeah. So there you go. It says here. The first scan was done, right? The link was accessed at this time, United Kingdom, blah, blah, blah. Right, so then I can go back to the platform, and then how many people have scanned the code, right? 3 people.
Ooh. Nice.
And then I can do all the data analytics I want. Who's been scanning my code? Where are they in the world? Whatever I want, and even have reporting that says, "Here we go." People from these IP addresses have done this. Literally, I have no idea how to write software. But guess what? I don't
That's
like it.
crazy.
I've not paid my invoice, and he doesn't have access to the report. So just turn it off, right?
Oh wow!
What should I give him? I'll give him a reason.
Spy.
Access revoked. Yeah. Yeah.
What have I said? Oh dear, let me check. Have you done it?
Yeah, it's just revoking. Revoked. So try the link now.
Link itself doesn't click now. Let me see again. Okay. No.
What's happening?
It's a strange because the link
Disabled.
It's formatting your laptop now.
What does it say?
Just work. Deactivate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Brent, you also took a picture of the QR code, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
So even if you tried to scan the QR code again, it wouldn't work.
Show me.
Right, we're just trying to find it. Because I probably moved it somewhere.
I have it here. That is.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Did you just use Claude for this, or
Yeah, I just use Claude.
did you use Flow? Or
I have a point of view.
Did it work? And
Scott Flow.
last activated. Yeah.
When we were about Spark, right? Specifications, suitable architecture. Like that harnessing was really necessary. Have you? But like fast forward now, as I'm looking at it, unless you are a really solid, like probably you, it's like pure level, like what you're developing, you need a harness. But for many, I think we don't need a harness anymore.
I don't need it.
Unless the token cost is a constraint, right? And that is one.
I would argue that, yes, I do agree with you, but last year was the year of the agent and harness. This year is the year of agent and memory. And not even memory, because true memory doesn't exist. We need the harness that can do high accuracy search and find.
I think I agree. I think for long running tasks, you definitely need memory management. As you say, it's not so much about like the harness, it's more like state preservation over long running tasks.
And not even memory, and I'm happy to share the gist. I open sourced it a couple of months ago, the hot and cold layer, fast and slow memory system, and ingest engine that you have for different data formats that come up in business operations, and the different corner and edge cases that can come up, because in a business environment, 1 out of 10 going wrong is unacceptable all of the time. So memory.
It's interesting. It goes back to S3 cold storage and such.
Just a question to Rocky, back to you and back to manufacturing. Manufacturing as a SaaS, and you said that manufacturing should be a subscription business as well. If that's the future, how do you eliminate the planned obsolescence that is currently in the at-scale manufacturing industry?
Yeah, so this is a sustainability question, right? Which is how do aero engines work today? It's already on a SaaS model. People don't realize this, right? Yeah, we don't pay. If you tried to buy an aircraft, even a joint strike fighter, even a military aircraft, you couldn't afford it. It costs too much, right? And also, if you wanted to do R&D on aero engines, as in make them more sustainable for fuel, it's all on financing, right? So when you have the pandemic and the planes on the ground, that's when they start losing money, because it's hour by the hour we're paying for. So I think that is going to be everything. But the issue is that if that is made out of platinum, which it is, phones are even moving to, which is, the materials going into that are so valuable and are so custom, right? Why wouldn't I just rent that to you? And then when you want to upgrade, I take all those materials back, just an energy problem, to take it back down to the original atoms and reform them into something else.
Trade and everything.
Right, you're trading everything. The only issue is basically energy, trade stability. It could be cryptographic, whatever, right? Which says, I know if I'm a materials company, I'm not mining anymore. I'm renting you material, Samsung, yeah, and you're paying me every month for renting my material. But I have a ledger that knows where all my material is right now in the world. So if I ever wanted to recall that, I could recall it. And then an element wastage in that process, which is already covered for. Right? So I do think that with AI, with Agentics, with cryptographic traceability, you're probably going to see a lot more than that, right? Which says, yeah, you can upgrade your phone and your watch and whatever you want as many times as you want, subject to what level of stats you're paying. Does that make sense? It's just that the building blocks haven't been put in place here.
I guess the friction is it aligns well with Poulter economic reform agenda, where they basically say you don't own anything anymore.
You don't need to own anything.
But it is something that many people are not looking forward to. It's already bad enough. People go like, hey, I can't buy in a house anymore. I'm priced out. If
if the message is going to be, hey, by the way, the iPhone you're buying, you're also actually not going to even own it anymore. I'm not entirely sure society is ready for that.
I think there's a process and there's a journey, but you have to. I kind of call it.
I get your point. What I'm saying is that if people on the bottom of society and you take away everything they're renting, might lead to a situation where we can't control the outcome anymore. And this is my work.
I think there's a psychological part, and that's why I say all hard systems are embedded in soft systems. Yeah. But the psychology that we're already going through anyway, actually we've gone through the worst psychology, which is, 100 years ago, we didn't really have much as human beings. I mean, we used to have baths and tubs, right? We never had a shower. I think we've probably gone too far, where kids are having 50 presents a year, 10 Easter eggs for Easter, right? So I think that there is an element, right? I kind of categorize it as what I call the 3 C's. So that's core, critical, and commodity, which is there are core things, right, which are important to in civilization where you will absolutely not want to have rented and hold on to it. There actually isn't that much. Maybe GPUs are one of those things. Then there's critical things which you don't mind trading, right, as long as there's a value exchange somewhere. And then the commodity stuff probably becomes obsolete, right, in that process.
There's this old saying in the startup world of being the medicine, because versus the supplement. Because in the time when things need to be pulled, commodities and supplements are the ones that get pulled. But if you're the medicine, people always need something that's not true.
And I think the commodity piece would be bio-based. An example of a commodity thing is plastic, paper packaging. There will be a day where I take my box, put it in my bathtub, turn the water on, and it just goes down the drain. And then down the line, they'll recover that material. And so we will see commodity things, which will basically be very perishable things, and therefore you've only got 2 C's left. That's probably the hypothesis right now.
That's what's fascinating, actually. I think to visualize the concept of bathtub melting away and.
And think how many jobs, and think how many different new roles and new professions and new ways of thinking that's going to be developing. Okay, the big players, if you make cardboard boxes and your ROI is how many cardboard boxes you make a year, of course you don't want to move to that paradigm and that model of work.
There is this meat delivery system in the US called CrowdCow that we use, and they do deliver compostable packaging that I can legit put it in the bathtub and put water on it and it goes down.
There you go.
And it's insulating and organic and breaks down.
Absolutely.
Right, conscious with time.
Yeah.
Unless anyone else has anything.
I can show you my other one if you want.
Let's give it some time.
I'm joking.
There is a reason to do this next time.
I'm joking.
Quick technical question.
Yeah.
As a non-software engineer, like TalkCloud built it up. He's just running that app locally, or what's it deployed?
You know what? I mean, this is my problem actually, which is also part of the company, which is, I'll say this, I think being a manufacturing-minded person, like I've worked with machines for 20 years, so I just see this as a machine, and I don't really have a process as such as a feeling of how to use machines. Does that make sense? So I'm still working out, actually, it's just all toys. It's just toys for me. And what works today actually doesn't work next week. Mm-hmm. But I think there is a process that I run through mentally that enables me to hit these things. One thing I'm working on at the moment, is, which is a classic case of this, is that I'm doing quotes now. My old boss used to say this would be my first one. Says, Robbie, you've just got to get quotes out. That's what you need to do to pay the bills. But if you think what the bottleneck for the quote system is, it's me. I've got to write the words that are tailored to the person. I'm not this person who's going to just flood the market with a generic quote. Everything's custom. But it takes time. Right? Even with AI, it takes time. So then I think, well, I want to be able to automate 80% or 90% of the piece. which is AI written, and then add my human element on top, right? So I'm building software around that. But I spent about 2 to 3 days just working out how these machines are going to work together before I even started. Does that make sense? So,
Specification is king.
but in my own head, I wrote a post about it just the other day. Sorry, just shut me out. And so basically, my shower broke, right? And it's a power shower, and I've got 2 kids and a wife, and it's the only bathroom. And I was like, oh man, and I'm broke, right? But, so like, it's £350 just to have a direct replacement for the shower. So guess what? I get Claude, I boot up Claude. Claude writes me this like massive spreadsheet. Here's the work instructions of how to change the shower. Here's all the 10 top showers you can buy. Here's all your failure modes. This is what you need to do, etc., etc. It's this massive product requirement specification for me. And by the way, this is going to cost you £2,500 all in, right? And I was like, bloody hell, this is just like the beast. But then I sort of forget that. Went down to Screwfix, talked to the guy behind the counter. I was like, yeah, just do this, this, and this. I bought the pipes, bought the thing, got the tiles of Gumtree, and done it in like a weekend for like £100. Yeah. So, but if I just went with the PRD, as people call it, it's just been a total waste of time. I would be burning tokens for no reason.
That means that Jack went with the PRD that you didn't try. That doesn't take away the value of the PRD.
Absolutely. No. So if I was working with a team and I needed to delegate the work, which is again, I've done this in my factories, you have to do that. That's when it becomes more important. I don't think writing PRDs for oneself is actually that valuable, personally. I think as a communication tool, if you're building a big infrastructure project, then yeah, absolutely, it's massively valuable. But that's what the answer to your question.
On the note of PRD, then I will show I didn't write a PRD in this instance, although I keep advocating it. So this is and I'll keep myself here.
Shall I stop sharing now?
Yeah, sure.
So it was really cool. Thank you. So thank you.
I'm going to share my screen. It's easier. So this is basically, I always wanted to learn Sanskrit. Right? Yeah. So
Sharing an email. Life safety, security.
Is it live stream?
But that's not my screen.
Is this live stream then or not?
What's live? I mean,
I think so. It's live, isn't it?
Vincent and Igor.
Yeah, but it's not like going out to YouTube.
No, we don't share with the White
So we can swear.
You're gonna share it on YouTube then.
That's my talking points to Trump, so it sounds smart.
But yeah, sure. You could edit it, won't you?
We don't have time to edit. Yeah.
Get agents to do it.
I can send you an FFmpeg skill that is one.
Yeah, just
when I was trying this, because I want to learn Sanskrit, but I also like music. So it's okay, and I've seen a lot of basically epics and Vedas, typically rock songs, right? Usually metal basically. I really love the music and the tones. I'll give you a play of some of the stuff that comes out. Proper rock, I love it, right? This is one of the Upanishads, and when it plays. So what's happening here is basically it's a very basic app, and what I want to say, will it play at all? I'm just thinking.
You need to share the sound.
Yeah, I think you need to share sounds.
And to share sound? Okay, let me do it again.
By default, might not do it.
Share sound.
I'm gonna figure out the volume in case it's very loud.
Yeah. Share. Is it working? Go sound words.
No wonder the audio little drop down to the left and hit the drop down and see if the sound is somewhere around there.
Let's speak.
It's
select the pro speaker.
Is it one thing?
Let's select the speaker, the outspeed speaker.
You go over the select TV speaker.
Yeah,
Keep going
stop sharing.
Up. That's
that
the
one.
R.
Yeah, that one. That macro pro speaker.
Just
original sound from musicians.
That microphone that you're looking at upward.
You need to go to the speaker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Down 3.
Yeah, I will take over everything. Yeah, can you hear me?
You are on mute.
Yeah, we still have a 2020 problem. Sorry, you're on mute.
Another one above. Another one. The nav bar. No? You up. You up. Up. Yeah. Click that. Click it. Click it.
Right. I see. It's consumed, so I'll keep it brief. So
There was a drop down there.
yeah.
And within the app, what's the output source? Within an actual app.
That's it. Okay. Last one.
What does it do? The gear icon in here in YouTube. What's the output source?
Left from the URL.
Okay.
Up, little bit up. Yeah. Up, little bit down. Little bit up. Yeah. And sound.
Okay, and then do the gear icon in the actual YouTube video. What is set there? Look at himself. More options.
Just the quality.
More options. More options. Oh, God, doesn't show you.
Yeah. So I don't know where the second one is coming from. I can't blame honestly if you for this purpose. So I came up with this app through Cloud session. Is this everything?
Mute yourself.
Yes.
That's the most
And
so what you do is basically translate the stuff here. And you can go stuff into like, you can actually dig into it. So maybe not play, but the thing is that you can go and you can effectively understand what this is about. And I went on to add more features like, knowledge graphs, because most of these are concepts about like battle weapons, heroism, what they are. What I found fascinating was that I didn't need to write a PRD or anything, just made primarily conversations. And this was the point I was trying to make before. Because for me, like I'm getting a Telegram, I've integrated to Telegram. So what happens is that every day, for example, there will be a nightly dreaming happening in the scheduled jobs here. So here, every night they'll go and effectively dream what it is going to discover today. And then it goes through a process of verifying whether it actually could process it correctly. And if it processes it, it will push it and stuff it. And I think this is what I mean by the fact that in a lot of these niche applications, etc., are possible now, which weren't really possible only like 6 months ago. You needed a harness. But I think that was basically it, right? This disorienting me.
You're the audio. Icon then.
I'm new to it on your laptop, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways, but that's all. I mean, don't want to shoot some time. That's all.
Let's help you.
Did you learn? That's good.
Yes.
I'm enjoying it because I effectively it helps you understand. Like the Matrix trilogy, the last song is actually a reveal of it. When the Matrix trilogy ends, the soundtrack that's from the reveal.
Number 3.
Number 3 trilogy. So there are a lot of things and concepts which are very interesting. I think this goes back to the point about Greek, Latin, the renaissance of knowledge. I think we're talking about sustainability, right? So it's like rediscovering some of the concepts and similarities. And one of our colleagues in Bangalore, his name is Nikhil. He has created this system of different fate systems, negotiating, come to solve problems. So we try to apply that system to the Iran conflict between US and Israel and others.
Council-based approach.
And it's very interesting how negotiations and alignment, because at the end of the day, what are humans? We are some belief systems, right? And I think the best way to chart a way forward is to appeal to the belief systems of different societies. And I think some of this, so far have been very difficult to detect and understand by people who are not attuned to it. I think this is, I think, a weapon in our capability in diplomatic circles, for example. We should really look at it. That's what I believe.
Did you just a little bit of L&D geeking out? Did you ended up on the concept of micro learnings by accident or on purpose?
When you say micro, elaborate.
That you get a text message basically daily. But it's not like, oh, you sit down and you like study it for hours and hours, but you basically get a nudge every day.
I haven't built a feature yet.
You did.
Well, I did, but I'm actually
Unintentional.
Yeah, correct. When I'm listening to the song, if I've got it playing in front of me, for example, I can see what that particular word means. So I need to know. Yes, in that sense, I have. That was the intent as well. To actually slowly internalize language, philosophy, etc. Yes.
Cool. And it's applicable to other languages.
I think so, yeah, because I built some kind of a Duolingo style features there where you can have like a micro learning. Right?
But does it mean that you will only be able to sing in Sanskrit from now on? Or
Sorry?
Because you will be singing in Sanskrit.
Yeah, my idea was actually understand the concepts, right? Not necessarily sing, but I like music and
So, and then, experiment, because my brain is weird like that. Yeah. You have a translation in Malay where you can use Sanskrit to instruct Kovacs or Cloud, and maybe get it right, better code and use less tokens by using different languages.
Information density within spoken words varies language to language.
Yeah, because I think Rufen did experiments where he basically came up with a different language,
Chinese,
to reduce token counts.
Inuit, I think he
symbolic language.
Right. You can ask it to talk like a caveman, and that reduces tokens. But
yes, they're very simple apps.
Yeah.
But it works with any language. As a Hungarian native, I learned English on Cartoon Network through watching Cartoon Network in English with Romanian subtitles. It works in any language.
I had it. I watched basically when I was younger. Was BBC journal, Fools and Horses, Hello, which is like really like Hello. Played my sister. British series. Yeah. And then EastEnders. And something else. And because my sister you need to learn English before you. So basically in Netherlands, last year of primary school, I get English lessons, but my sister was like, "Oh, let me get you a hat." So basically, she put me in front of the TV. So you never dub anything to original. You have.
That's a very Hungarian pop culture thing that I found. Dubbing.
Dubbing. And Brazil as well.
And
Dutch broadcasters don't dub. It's very rare. Only like kids movies that do it, where it gets so big, where they go like Frozen. Oh yeah, maybe we get a Dutch one. Then actually, a lot of kids when they get older get offended because they go like, "That's not Elisa Menzel or whatever," and they go like, "This is the fake person." So dubbing in Netherlands is not as big as it would be in France or something, where it's a much bigger thing.
On that note, I guess thank you all for the patience. I think a great conversation. We should take a photo, maybe. We should do it probably this way so that you're going to.
And thanks for joining.
Cheers. Thank you, guys.
Like a selfie or something like
put
that.
it on a timer.
Or
other side.
We can stand here, maybe.
Can't get that to take one hour.
Do a selfie.
Maybe drop the call so it's
Only the people, so it's only the people on the call.
We can drop the call from.
No, because we dropped them.
But I don't know if it's going to work.
Are we all in?
Yeah.
Let's try to.
Yeah. There we go.
You okay? Nice.
Okay, I don't know, something.
AI.
Agentic
AI. Thanks a lot, guys. That was really interesting.
Thank you for bringing us together.
Cheers.
It's always about creating a space. So thank you for creating a space.
I just that individual there. He's a member of the faculty.
Amazing was building.
So it's good. Now I'm going to get a bigger room.